Hey guys, we are back on studio / on site with season 2, episode 10 of AliTalksTech. Today, I'm super excited because I'm here with my friend Dan Kwach on site at the Africa Data Center. And, I've always wanted to be in the really guts of the internet or digital economy. And here we are today. So when I had a conversation with Dan a couple of days ago, I jumped at this opportunity to have hopefully a fantastic conversation with Dan. Dan, karibu boss.
Thanks a lot, Ali. And really, we like hosting. So we not only host guests, but we actually host a number of customers who we actually going to talk about today. So super excited to have you really on site today as opposed to coming to the studios, and we'll make the most of it. So we'll definitely have this conversation, but I think we'll make sure that we demonstrate to our customers what we are really bent of. So we will use this opportunity to showcase what are those critical elements that we have in the data center and what makes us tick.
Great. Dan, first things first. A lot of people who are not in the tech ecosystem may not really understand the details and the guts of what it means to have cloud computing. I'm always joking that cloud up there is held by real servers on the ground. Could you just take us through what it means, for the digital economy across Africa, which is what the Africa Data Center is serving, and what it means to run a tier 3 data center. One thing I must tell you, it took me and my colleagues like 15, 20 minutes to get in here. At one point, I thought I was getting into Fort Knox or something. What's up with that? Tell us about why security is important and all that stuff that comes with it. Over to you, Dan.
Thanks a lot. Really, like you've just mentioned, when everyone talks about cloud computing and when everyone talks about how much they cannot lay their hands on cloud, you're right that really a data center is the physical manifestation of the cloud. Ultimately, what we are talking about on cloud computing is to anonymously have your data stored and processed in a location that, for a very good reason, is not known publicly, but is known to you as an organization. So you've trusted a particular cloud services provider to host and offer you that critical service. But it still ends up being run and processed and stored in a hardware device, and that hardware device is what we've been entrusted to keep in our facilities. So yes, we host cloud service providers in East Africa and beyond, because as the name suggests, we are not just operating in Eastern Africa.
Correct.
Africa Data Centers is present in South Africa, so we've got data center facilities in Johannesburg and Cape Town. We are present in West Africa, so we've got a data center in Lagos. We are present in East Africa, and rightfully today we are hosting you, and we will definitely show you the nuts and bolts around the data center.
So how many data centers across Africa?
So in terms of the data centers that we have across Africa, we are talking of about 6 data center facilities that are live and fully owned and operated by Africa Data Centers.
Wow. That's a serious operation.
It is. But of all the things, if there's anything we've had to do is to standardize how we are designing, building, and operating these data centers, so that when a customer knocks on Africa Data Centers' door, there is an expectation of very high availability. You are going to get that same availability of 100% across all our data center facilities. But of course, we've got those industry benchmarks that we have to work along with. So we work with Uptime Institute to make sure that we can translate availability to something that is quantifiable.
Maybe explain to my viewers what it means to have 99.999% uptime.
Agreed. So I was actually going to talk about that. So when you come to Africa Data Centers, we have and run tier 3 data center environments. And tier 3 loosely translates to us, making sure that we can offer you 100% availability.
Okay.
But shouldn't we offer 100% availability? Then what's the bare minimum? So that bare minimum is 99.982%, which translates to 8 minutes in a calendar month. And that includes any issues.
8 minutes downtime.
8 minutes downtime. And that means any issue that can occur, regardless of whether it was within our operations team's, responsibility and capability to stop or not. So everything, including what is really outside of our control, is still limited at that 8 minutes threshold. And that is why really data centers are seen to be mission critical, which ties into what you are talking about, and apologies for that, the security requirements in a data center environment. Because you talk about what we are hosting today. We are hosting cloud service providers who are hosting very critical services by third parties. We are hosting banks and financial institutions in Kenya. So over 50% of banks have
critical infrastructure.
Critical infrastructure. And you can appreciate that this is infrastructure that's not owned by us. This is infrastructure that is owned by our customers, but they've trusted us because we are giving them much better security. They've trusted us because they're getting better access levels because they need connectivity. So over 50 network providers that they can make use of. They've trusted us because it's much easier for them to connect and enjoy one another's services, which relates to what you're talking about, that digital economy. So that level of trust and that level of operational requirement and security matrix, that is what at times could maybe, come through as an inconvenience to a customer when they're walking in. But I have to say this and maybe just clarify that it only takes long if at all you're coming in for the very first time, and in which case we hadn't done the pre-registration to make it a lot quicker for you to access the facility. But really, for our customers, once we have them onboarded and we have a trusted list of those that have been trusted to come and access the facility to offer any kind of maintenance, it's a lot quicker, and we then focus on being efficient and customer centric, and of all the things, making sure that we can support them in terms of any activity that they are coming to conduct in the data center facility as quick as possible.
So we've heard that you are a tier 3 data center. How many other tiers are there for the benefit of my audience? How many tiers, and what exactly does it mean to be a tier 3 data center?
Okay. So we've got 4 tiers of data centers. And this is something that has been put in place in the industry by Uptime Institute. So Uptime Institute is an organization in the United States, and really they have purposely and targeted themselves to offer us support by way of being an industry body that collects, the design best practices or the design principles that data center operators can make use of, so that if we are talking about achieving tier 3 standards, which is that 99.982%, then what have we done to make sure that we've got redundancies in place? So Uptime Institute has defined those in 4 categories. The first category is actually tier 1, and tier 1 really just means no redundancies. So in a
zero
redundancies. And then the next question is, if you've got zero redundancy, then would you entrust your mission critical services in a zero redundancy environment? You'll be uncomfortable. Then you get to the next, which is really a tier 2 environment.
So when you're talking about zero redundancy, what do you basically mean in terms of uptime? What are the industry expectations in terms of uptime per month?
When you're talking about tier 1, it's almost like you are actually not even having a threshold as to really what you're meant to achieve in terms of availability.
So basically it's pata potea.
Yes, it's and that is how it comes really when you're talking mission criticality or service or mission critical services, then it starts from a certain level.
Okay.
Now tier 2 then talks of, you can be talking of redundancies in place, but these redundancies actually share common parts. In which case,
explain that.
So redundancies sharing common parts. Let me say you've got 2 UPSs, but these 2 UPSs are actually sitting in same environment where if at all a flood occurred, then you have to shut all of them.
Yes.
So you see, you're then limited in terms of how much availability you can guarantee, simply because you do not have redundancies on path. So it can be in terms of the UPS, which is maybe your power.
Okay.
It can be in terms of your connectivity.
Yes.
I will say, talk of network infrastructure in Kenya. There's always the much talked about redundancies. But then all of a sudden you get a single cut, actually a single physical cut, causing multiple failures. When a single cut causes multiple failures, then it means there were multiple fibers along the same path. And this really hinders your availability and resilience requirements from a highly expected environment of availability or reliability.
Done.
Yeah.
My audience is not all technical.
Yes.
The term redundant means very different things
to different people.
Yes. But from tech infrastructure perspective,
yes,
what exactly does that mean?
Yes. So redundancy always answers the question, what if one path goes down?
Okay.
So the question around what if one path goes down,
yes,
then brings in the element or the aspect of you need to have an alternate path. So let's say a UPS went down, then you should be having a second UPS.
So that's the redundancy.
That's redundancy. One network path goes down, then another path should
I like to break it down from the lowest common denominator so that we are all on the same path.
The same line.
Okay, so we are now into tier 2. Tier 3.
So tier 3, that is where we play, and that is where you then have redundancy, in which case you've addressed the what if one path goes down.
Correct.
But the other thing you've actually done is to make sure that these redundancies are in physically separate environments, because you have to then address the other requirement, of which is you should not have a common failure then necessitating you shutting down because they are sharing common rooms. So in a tier 3 environment, that is when you now talk of a concurrently maintainable environment. And concurrently maintainable, again, to break it down, it then just means that supercomputer that a banking institution has trusted us to host.
Yes.
At no point should we be telling them, guess what? We have a maintenance activity. So with us having to maintain a UPS, then we're asking you to come and shut down in the night on Sunday.
Like a certain organization in this country sends you a maintenance alert.
Yes.
And you have no service for the full day.
For the full day.
Talking about that.
Yeah.
How do you maintain 24/7 power with the current situation that we are having with humongous power interruptions?
It's all again aligned to that whole data center architecture. So that tier 3 requirement that I was talking about, remember I told you that you've got the redundancies in place. So the redundancies start right from the power level. So we have redundancies for this data center in the form of having 2 feeds from the utility service provider. So we had to actually have a conversation with the utility provider and let them know the mission, the critical nature of our business. And they've then made sure that we've got 2 independent power supply paths and feeds into this facility. So that then just addresses the question, or at least reduces the uncertainty or the chance of us having a total outage because you are only having 1 utility line, or you actually having 2, but they're coming from the same path.
Have you had a situation where those 2 feeds are down?
We've had a national outage in Kenya. So the national outages in Kenya have been the only unique situations where we are then having both of the lines actually down. But as you can appreciate, national outages don't occur every other time. So they occur very few times. And I can tell you that in terms of our experience in terms of our power architecture, in Kenya, we are doing good. Because you travel down to Nigeria, where we also have an operation, the infrastructural layout and maybe the operational, levels, we have a lot of outages down there.
But I want to challenge you.
Yes.
Dan, I'm sure you've heard me use this analogy before.
Yeah.
For crying out loud, let's not compare ourselves with other African countries.
True.
Because we must aim higher. We must aim higher, because if we do that, then our threshold becomes a little bit low. So, during that power outage, what other redundancies did you guys have?
Anytime we have a power outage, then we've got our generators that then support.
They kick in immediately. That's what I wanted.
And that gives you like a whole 5 seconds that we should be having, the generators in, and so we have power resumption in all our facilities.
Brilliant.
And you're right. When you are talking about us comparing ourselves to other environments, you'll be shocked, but the mantra for Africa data centers is to always solve
global competencies.
Yes, so global
competencies, because
yeah,
if we don't think like that,
yeah,
we have big tech operating in Africa.
mm-hmm.
We have AWS
Yeah,
setting up data centers. We must be up to scratch. So hats off to Africa Data Center for that sort of thinking.
Yeah.
Any one of your data centers on Tier 4, and talk to us about Tier 4.
So the Tier 4 level then talks of a fault tolerant data center environment, and a fault tolerant data center now goes beyond having the
redundancy now.
Exactly. Fault tolerant now talks of, should you have an outage on your mains, then you should not lose redundancy. So that means having 2 layers of redundancy. And those 2 layers of redundancy, one of it should actually be an active path. So having or running that kind of data center environment happens to be very costly. Your question has been whether we've got a Tier 4 data center. We do have. So we are the only data center operator with a Tier 4 certified facility in South Africa. But this is a data center that we acquired from Standard Bank in Johannesburg.
In Joburg,
yeah.
Okay.
So we acquired it from Standard Bank, and we have now commercialized it. So we've made it available to other customers who also.
So Standard Bank had built a Tier 4 data center.
Yeah. Wow. And I think they made a good decision, and I think it all maybe relates to the cost element in terms of running that kind of data center facility. Traditionally, it's commercially viable running Tier 3 data centers as opposed to really having a Tier 4 data center. Okay. But what we do in the market, and this is something that I'm sure it's not only Africa data centers that do, is that we've gone to the level of now, by standards, actually going beyond the Tier 3 requirement.
Okay.
And this is just because some of the players that we host in our data center environment actually do not expect us to lose redundancy, even on maintenance. Even should we even have an outage that was unprecedented. So that then, puts us in that challenging situation where, while we are guaranteeing our customers Tier 3, they actually have an expectation that we should offer more. And that's something that we've been able to achieve.
That is interesting.
We believe in doing what is right for our customers because we understand the sensitive nature of services that they run in our facilities.
Are you at liberty to mention some of your customers? Or you are under confidentiality for obvious reasons.
Exactly. We've got confidentiality clauses that we have to really appreciate or respect. And but I think it goes without saying that, sharing the numbers that we can always qualify is most important. So you talk network providers, we've got over 55 network providers in our facility in Nairobi. You talk of the banks, like I was telling you, over 50% have trusted us, and and this is thanks to that long history of us offering 100%.
So you cover across industries.
Yeah. You talk of the cloud providers whom we were mentioning. Anyone consuming Microsoft Azure services, you're consuming that outside of from within this data center facility.
Interesting.
And we are in discussions with all the top tier cloud service providers because we understand what their plans are in terms of their rollouts in Africa. So that's how it comes in East Africa. We are their number one preferred choice, and that is because of that digital ecosystem that we already have in place. But I would say again, the high availability that we've been able to achieve at the right price to our customers. So we understand that, and we don't take it for granted. I know we've got other players that have come into the space, but I think that advantage that we've got in terms, that first move advantage is something that has really pushed us hard and keeps on pushing us harder, because the continuous improvement is something that is always at a priority for Africa data centers.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I've been in this industry for better part of 25 plus years. So I've seen across the board the different segments of the industry evolve. In the late 90s, when I was working for one of the digital agencies, 3 Mice Interactive Media, we used to buy server space from Rackspace in the US. Yeah. And one of the things that used to irk us the most is how internet data had to get out of the country and then come back. Thank God today we have internet exchange points, both local and regional. what role do data centers like ADC play in this? I hope it's okay to call it ADC.
No, ADC, yes. Yeah.
What role do ADC and other data centers play in these exchange points, and how critical are they to ensure, number one, cost is brought down, number two, we have high speeds with very little buffering, especially for high data connections?
You're spot on that, in the absence of data center facilities like what we have, what ADC has in Africa and other players as well, really then traditionally we've been consuming content from outside of this continent, so to speak. So yes, we used to use an international link to upload our data to a data center that's sitting in Europe. And we also use that international link to access the same data and access the same service. What we've done as Africa data centers, or the data center players in Africa have done, is to resolve that issue by way of now putting data center facilities that can be trusted to offer the same kind of services within reach. And when I say within reach, it eliminates or reduces the dependency on international connectivity. So today, anyone probably consuming a cloud-based service from Africa has an opportunity and has a very high chance that you'll be potentially consuming it from a data center that's within the continent. And that really just reduces the cost, because international connectivity is something that comes at a very high price.
Correct.
But for me, in fact, what I always say is the biggest price is latency, because latency can be the differentiator. Just in case you're actually wanting to access some medical funds through mobile money, in case you had to tap onto a server that was to authenticate that in Europe, when you need to pay a hospital bill in Nairobi.
Correct.
So there are things that we take for granted. Latency is key for that HR officer who is actually wanting to help somebody out so that they can actually maybe do an interview virtually.
And most stuff is
so there's a lot
hosted virtually today.
Yes. So for us, that bit around appreciation that latency is key is something that we have come to the party with a solution, because we've then eliminated or reduced that latency incredibly by having data centers that have eliminated not just the cost but also reduced that latency.
Break down latency for my non-technical viewers.
So latency is really the amount of time that it will take for you to then access a digital service.
Okay.
Or a digital content.
Okay.
That digital content can be internet. You remember the whole that old time when you used to click on was it Yahoo? And you have a circle on your screen that goes on for probably 3 minutes or so.
Those days of dial-up, you used to plug that thing in, go serve yourself coffee, come back, is still doing that thing.
Yes, yeah.
So that's latency.
So that's latency. So reducing that is something that has been reduced to a point that I think we no longer really appreciate it.
That's true.
That's just the
we have come to accept it as a matter of course.
Exactly. Yeah.
Done. This is super interesting for me. I hope my viewers are also glued to their chairs or couches, listening and watching this. What has it taken to get ADC here? And talk to us a little bit about the holding company that owns Africa Data Centers and the vision of the founders and the shareholders and the board of this super interesting African conglomerate.
Thanks a lot. So really, this is a journey that we've been into for a very long time. Just last year, for our East African operation, we celebrated our 10-year anniversary with our customers who've trusted us coming from zero. So really, we started off as a telecommunications company. That was way back. When I talk about the Kenyan context, that was as Kenya Data Networks.
Yes.
Then, of course, it changed hands to AliTalk Investments. But then AliTalk Investment was an IT investment company that I think I was part of that whole team that underwent that acquisition, or that merger and acquisition. And so I think they really had a rough time, navigating through the telecommunications landscape, being an IT investments company. And sometime back in 2013, 2012, we then had this opportunity of Liquid Telecom, which is then a telecommunications company, seeing an opportunity in growing their network infrastructure, because this is an organization that was born in the Southern Africa. But you see, they always had this dream of Cape to Cairo. From as early as 2003. And so at times, one of the quickest ways to expand is really acquiring or, merging with existing operations. So there's an opportunity for Liquid Telecom to then expand its operations into East Africa by acquiring the assets and the business operation that was then Altextreme East Africa. So that happened in 2011, 2012. And beyond that, by them acquiring that, sometime again, maybe 2016, Liquid again was venturing in South Africa a lot more, and it acquired Neotel. And on them acquiring Neotel happened to have a data center asset or data center assets that were sitting in Johannesburg and Cape Town. Same way when they were acquiring KD and the other data center sitting in Nairobi. So Liquid Telecom came with this experienced hand in terms of telecommunications organization management. But the other thing that was also very good was their understanding of the expectations of a data center operation. So that is how comes they intentionally hived off the data center business
as a standalone business.
And this was done purposely so that we can meet our customers' expectations by being carrier neutral.
Focus. Carrier neutral. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yes, so carrier neutral just means in as much as the organization or the data center business was owned by Liquid Telecom, we in no way pushed for the condition that if at all you are hosting your infrastructure, for that service that you are hosting in our environment to be accessed externally, then you must only use Liquid Telecom's network infrastructure. That is a prohibitive way of growing your data center business. So for us, we made it open and gave an opportunity to Liquid Telecom to have the same chance of offering connectivity as Safaricom,
like anybody else,
as Jamii Telecom. So we made it really open, and that's how comes we've grown that ecosystem.
How's that journey gone?
So well, it's actually...
So you can truly say you are carrier neutral.
We are carrier neutral by all means and ways, because the way we operate is something that has been demonstrated to our customers that we are indeed neutral. What I always feel is our competitors might at times want to question our neutrality or bring in acronyms like we have data centers that are more neutral than others. But for me and the team that we have, we would rather be judged by our customers. And customers have really, in all honesty, seen our neutrality when it comes to the connectivity space, when it comes to the cloud space, because we host different cloud service providers. They've even seen our neutrality on the IXP space. So in terms of that, communication engineering or traffic movement, we also push for neutrality on that perspective as well. We would rather all these organizations see us as that very trusted party that gives them an equal chance at thriving, because that's what a digital ecosystem should do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, I mean, I'm so fascinated by this conversation. We can go on and on. We've talked a lot about where you've come from, the operations, mostly technical.
Yes.
Let's talk about the people. Let's talk about what it takes from a human capital perspective to actually run a data center. And by the way, I would love, if there is an opportunity, I would love to actually talk to somebody who operates really at the guts of this data center, an engineer. Will you be able to arrange that? I know it's very short notice, but over to you.
Ali, thanks for pushing me on the deep end, but I think it's a most welcome move, and I think that's what we meant by making the most of this visit.
Yes.
So it's always good to hear from the horse's mouth, but really, yes, personally, I'm testament to what you'll be hearing from my colleagues. I come from a network technical background. That's what I was doing.
Yes.
But of course, over time, we've had to make sure that we can grow by way of getting some other commercial skills, people management skills, making sure that you can at least understand the 360 view of an operation, because that is what growth is all about. So always continuously challenging ourselves is something that we do. But yes, back to engineering. I think
Yes.
no better way than getting a colleague of mine. That's Flora.
I mean, if you can avail Flora, it would be
no, definitely
fantastic.
she's going to come over, and she can actually answer the big question around, what does it take for an ADC engineer, to make sure that we are keeping to our customer promise? You remember that whole 8-minute story?
Yes.
We have a team that has been entrusted to make sure that we can deliver on that promise. So
or reduce
why
it.
not? Or reduce it. And like they've done. Thanks for actually highlighting that.
Yes.
So they've been able to achieve 100% for a very long time. So always a pleasure. I think let's take a break and I get you somebody to come
Let's
and say
do
hello.
that. Let's do that.
Thanks.
Flora,
Yes.
I know I've thrown you into the deep end. I asked Dan, my good friend, if I could talk to an engineer
Yes.
in the data center. So, Flora, maybe just quick introductions, who you are, what you do, and then we dive straight into it.
Okay. I'm Flora Wangoi Madenge, an electrical and electronic engineer by profession. I'm a customer.
What's the difference? Electrical and electronic engineer. Did you have to take 2 degrees? Or
No, it's one. I took one.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 5-year course.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, currently at ADC, I'm a customer support technician here.
Okay.
Yes.
So, electrical and electronic engineer.
Yes.
What did it take for you to become an engineer? And how long have you been at this job?
Well, I've been in the data center industry for 3 years.
For 3 years.
Yes, but here at ADC, I've only been here for 1 year.
Okay.
Yes.
How is it? Give us your typical day in a data center.
Yes, my typical day at ADC involves assisting customers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, supporting any customers in any kind of way.
Okay.
Well, I don't have any plan for a day because I mainly deal with what comes up. Yes, so today might be different from what I'll do tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes, so it depends on customer needs or any activity that comes up that needs to be done.
Okay.
Yes, for instance, today morning, my
Yes,
first task.
I was going to ask you that question. Thank you for prompting me.
My first task of the day today was rebooting a switch for a customer. Yes, he wrote an email and said that he was unable to reach his switch. Yes, so we had to go to his rack and then we had to reboot it.
So to reach his switch by hand?
No,
or
I mean
what?
remotely.
Remotely, okay.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So customers who are here, they can reach their devices remotely. And if they are not in a position to, then we always here on standby to assist them and by rebooting their devices. Yes, and by that now they can be able to reach their devices.
Okay, so
Yes.
that was
So
one of the things that you
was one
did.
of the things that I did today.
Mhm.
Yes. Also on my plan of the day, there's a cross connect that came
So
up.
there is a plan.
Yes. Not
For
really a
the-
plan.
the-
It's a
okay.
task that came up.
Okay.
Yes. That was a cross connect. By a cross connect, it means a connection between 2 customers.
Wow. That happens?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
So if one customer A wants to connect with another customer B,
Yes.
I'll have to run a cable from the
Correct.
rack where equipments of customer A
Yes.
and customer B are connected.
Okay.
Yes, and then I will do the patching, that is like putting the cable on the device. Yes, and then now they'll do the configurations on their end, and then now they can share the services.
Amazing.
Yes.
Amazing.
Another example is we have a new customer who will be coming here very soon. I'm not sure of the date.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to prepare their space.
So onboarding
Yes,
process.
onboarding a new customer.
Take us through that process.
When we're onboarding a new customer, we first allocate a space for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so for our customers, we provide racks depending on what the customer needs. A customer might tell you,
These are specialized racks, not just
Yes.
your normal racks you may see in the kitchen or something.
Yes.
I know Dan has promised to take me through a small tour of the data center, but just quickly explain to us how that rack looks like.
Well, our racks have a front side which has a mesh, and also the back side also which has a mesh.
Okay.
So on the front side is where the equipment suck in the cold air.
Okay.
Yeah, which is provided by the cooling units.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a mesh. We call the front side of a rack, we call it the cold aisle.
The gold eye.
The
cold
aisle.
Okay.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some cooling units which push the cold air through we call it the under race flow.
Mm-hmm.
That's how now the equipment can suck the cold air. And then after the cold air has been sucked by the equipment, they expel the hot air on the fans on the hot side of the rack.
Okay.
Yes. So that's how our normal racks look like.
Good
looks
stuff.
like.
Good
And
stuff.
so the racks, they're also closed. they always make sure that the client's equipment are secure, and we always make sure that the racks are closed. Yes. So back to the onboarding process.
Yes.
Yes. So we allocated the customer's location.
Mm-hmm.
That is, the customer said they wanted a quarter rack.
Yes.
Yeah. So we told them that we are going to put you on a certain
A
floor.
quarter rack.
Yes.
So there's full rack.
There's full rack, half, and also
quarter
quarter.
rack.
You can also take more than one rack.
Okay.
Yes. So we give them the location of their rack,
Mm-hmm.
and then we'll go ahead and power. We provide power for the customer.
Okay.
Yes. And then the customer, he needs to connect with other internet service providers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So we'll also go
For
ahead.
connection.
Yes, for connection.
So how many ISPs do you have in here?
We have over 50 of them here.
Wow.
Yes.
Whoa. Okay. That is super interesting.
Yes.
Look, I mean, see, 5 minutes are gone and we are
Really?
still talking. I hope that you'll take us around
Uh-huh.
to see what's actually going on in the belly of the beast, so to speak.
It's my pleasure.
But Flora, thank you so much. It's I can see how
Mhm.
excited you are about your job. So
Yes,
that's
I am.
really, really good to know. Really great for customers to see some of the people who are actually working to ensure that they have 99.8 something uptime.
Yes.
Asante sana, Flora.
Karibu.
It's a real pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much for having me speak with Flora.
Yeah.
That was illuminating. And I hope that she will take us around for a few minutes to see how the guts of a data center work. But we're not done yet. Flora is just part of the conversation that I would love to have.
Yeah.
HR, your human capital.
Mm.
The last couple of months has seen a lot of talk about the fact that Africa has a huge deficit of engineers and tech professionals.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that, and I would really love to speak with your HR if she's available.
She is available.
Brilliant.
Let me just
Dan,
clarify that.
Asante sana. Thank you so
But
much.
again, one of the things that I also wanted to maybe say or confirm is, Flora is going to be part of the technical team that is going to take you guys around
Good
and
stuff.
show you
Good stuff.
the very critical pieces that we have for the data center. Interesting. So when I was going to get a hold of her, she had to correct me on some of the statements that I was making in terms of availability. So apparently the tier 1 data center, it's there's an availability threshold, but downtime should not go beyond about 28 hours in a whole calendar year. That's for
28 hours.
28 hours. That's more than
So
a
just
day.
about a day.
More than a
and
day.
For a whole year.
Yeah, that's for tier 1 data center environment. For tier 2, probably not more than 22 hours in a whole calendar year. Then, of course, the tier 3 goes as I just mentioned, which is the 8 minutes for per calendar month. But yes, having the right team really forms a very basic and very critical ingredient, for that matter, for any data center operator like ADC, so that we can make sure that once we go and sell, let's keep to that customer promise. So having teams that can be entrusted to make sure that they can upskill, because remember, we all come out of universities or the high institutions
Correct.
of learning with the
Correct.
qualifications that we've got. But being exposed to, specific industries so that we can gain that very skill that is required for us to achieve our objectives or execute our roles, that is something that comes with some of the human or maybe the HR elements and values that I wouldn't want to talk about, because why would I be talking about this yet? We've got our HR rep, my colleague June, and I think you'll also appreciate. We try to, as much as possible, embrace diversity.
Yes.
But we don't just talk about it, but it is something that we do. So there's diversity and inclusion in terms of how we go about recruitment, because it helps. There's always this African saying, and I live by it: the Ubuntu spirit. You are because I am. Or I am because you are.
Yes.
And for me, I always borrow that because not all of us can be engineers Not of all of us can be
100%.
doctors.
100%.
So the fact that you're then, at least embracing that diversity in yourself, that is an African thing. And we make sure that we live to it by letter and spirit, because our customers are also very diverse. But thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Dan.
I think at this point in time, allow me to also take a break and maybe allow our HR
I would love
rep
to
have a chat with you before we can then do the tour.
Absolutely. I would love to speak to John.
Hi, my name is June Mutalesa. I look after the human capital here at Africa Data Centers. Well, in as much as I am regarded as, the HR person here, I like to consider myself the people champion at ADC, simply because I seek to champion the people's agenda within the business.
June, the HR question has fascinated me for as long as I have been working.
Yeah.
Way back in the mid-90s, when I used to work in the motor industry, we used to have a personnel manager. Then it has evolved. It then became HR manager. Now we have human capital director, human capital or HR business partner. Could you just break that down for us? Because, I'm not an HR professional, so sometimes I get confused with all these terminologies. And then as you break it down, talk to us about the pivotal role that HR plays in a data center like ADC.
Interesting that you briefly mentioned on the evolution of the HR as a profession.
Yes.
And likewise, just to add on to what you have alluded to.
Yes.
People in HR are now regarded to as people and culture champions. And why I say that is because there's an element of culture that comes into place when you look at the people dynamics that exist within any business. So to start off with where you began, personnel management. So previously, personnel management was all about getting someone to do the job and, pay them and they go, without regard of how are you equipping this person to ensure that they become a holistic human being, in the sense that
it's all about keeping records.
Exactly. More less about what investment you're making in individuals, and more about what documentation have they brought in, what do they need to do, have they come in on time.
Yes.
It was less of a journey and more of an event. So nowadays it has become one of those things where you have to journey with employees right from inception up until when unfortunately or fortunately you have to exit them or part ways with them.
Okay.
So it is more of an evolving kind of thing, whereby now you have to invest in each and every step of the way with this employees. Yeah.
What role does HR play
thanks for that.
Yes.
So the role that HR plays, really, it like I have alluded to, it starts from the point of getting the right person and then getting the right fit for the organization. We do believe at Africa Data Centers that we can hire we do hire for attitude and train for competence, simply because we believe that anyone can learn anything.
Okay, I would love to repeat this.
Yeah.
Hire for attitude. Train for competence. Okay,
yes.
Break it down.
So with attitude comes a lot of things. And when I speak of attitude, I speak into what we value as an organization. At ADC, we pride ourselves as being customer obsessed. And from the point of interviewing a candidate and realizing that this person might be a misfit within the business, they do not champion the customer's agenda, then for us, that would be a problem. So ideally for us at ADC, as we look at onboarding a candidate or onboarding an employee as we recruit, we seek to drill down and understand, are you one who would fit into our culture or not? Are you an individual who can easily be taught? Are you willing to learn? Are you able to come and gel well with the team from a teamwork perspective? Because again, that is also something that we value as an organization. So looking at the attitude that you portray during the interview really speaks into whether we will get you in or not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So apart from it just being a catchphrase, what are those key ingredients that tell you that somebody is customer obsessed?
So just by the demeanor they give. Because I mean, in a 30-minute interview, it might not be
that obvious
that someone is really customer obsessed, but really based on how we seek to understand your, where you sit in terms of the approach that you take if faced by a difficult situation. Say if a customer comes at you having expectations that you cannot meet, what do you do as an individual? If you're having challenges with a customer, what do you seek? What approach do you seek to come up with to help solve their solution? And equally, not just looking from an external customer perspective, likewise from an internal customer perspective, what I mentioned from a teamwork perspective speaks a lot into how you get to work with your colleagues. So again, if someone is not able to demonstrate through the interview how they have previously been able to say work together with their team members to bring the best out of them, then for us, we might not be convinced that indeed you would make a good fit for the business.
Thank you so much, June. There is so much more that I would love to delve into, but we just simply don't have time. So what I would love to maybe get a feel from you is how, as my last question or comment, how has ADC navigated the new normal? And, if you understand what I'm talking about, new normal, you guys have actually been at the threshold of making sure that people can work from home without any issues in terms of connectivity and stuff, in terms of redundancies and all that kind of thing. But you yourselves, your staff, you have quite a number of young people. How do you now operate in the new normal? Do you work a hybrid model? Is it now everybody is back at work? How does that work, and how is it going to pan out going forward?
Okay, interesting that you ask, because in the recent past, we have seen quite a number of organizations shifting from a work from home hybrid model to now actually requiring their employees to be in the office full time. But for us as ADC, we have gotten to a space where we appreciate that we can comfortably have a hybrid model that works for us. So much as we have the technical team, which would be required to physically be in the office on pretty much all days. Given the nature of what we do have a system that works for us, a hybrid system that works for us. And equally, it does not leave out the technical team because there's an arrangement that we do have from a shift perspective that works in our favor, such that you'd find that, say, if someone, for instance, was working overnight, then by all means, we would not expect them to be in the office the following day.
Correct.
And likewise, for the support functions, we equally do have we've incorporated the hybrid system where we have employees choosing what days they can work remotely and what days they require. They would physically come to the office. But ultimately, for us as an organization, we appreciate that we need to have that physical interaction. So again, we have systems that work for us in the sense that we have coordinated our team such that at no point in time would we lack an individual from a specific department just to keep the wheels moving.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, June. Again, as I said, we can go on and on, but time is not on our side. So thank you again very much for accepting to be hijacked by Dan, just like your colleague, and come and talk to me. Asante sana.
Karibu sana.
Great.
Pleasure's all mine.
Dan, thank you so much for availing Flora and June. It was illuminating, and I love this because it's sort of a different podcast. We've talked about the general leadership stuff, but you've allowed me to talk to your team on HR matters and the engineer who, she was vibrant. You could see that she loves what she does.
Yeah.
Dan, we're coming to the end of this podcast. Although I'm hoping that I will spend a little bit more time with you after here to go and actually look at how the data center operates. My last question to you is, what keeps you awake as a data center operator? What's one or a couple of your greatest challenges?
Thanks a lot. Really, it goes without saying, I first and foremost really have to thank my colleagues for sparing a moment to at least just come and speak for themselves. I'm one of those people who always believes in, as opposed to hearing from another, why don't you just hear from the horse's mouth?
Absolutely.
It informs my my value system in terms of making sure that we are authentic and you're getting sincere feedback and insights from the team. Now to your very difficult question on what really keeps me awake. Trust you me, it's got everything to do with keeping our strategy as current as possible, even as I execute on it. And
always opportunities to pivot the strategy.
Always opportunities to pivot, always an opportunity to make sure that we can reassess whether that strategy is actually still as future-proof as we thought. Some of the things that we thought we were going to do maybe a year ago, today as we speak, we are getting customer signals, we are getting industry trends that are actually, sort of telling us otherwise. And we have to just make sure that we can always appreciate that macro element in terms of the industry expectations, so that whatever we do is not in vain. And you have to do all these amidst very stiff competition that has come in the market. We have to do this amidst a lot of alternatives that our customers are also starting to have. We have to do this amidst a lot of financial pressures. I mean, talk of the Kenyan environment right now, there's an extremely high cost of energy, and we are facing forex fluctuations that are just going out of our control.
Crazy.
And doing all this while still making sure that, number one, our customers are happy. Doing all this while making sure that our staff are really joyful and really excited to come to work tomorrow. Doing this while making sure that our investors are okay and they can actually still trust us to build a lot more like we want to do. Whatever you have in Nairobi today, we want to build something. We want to build 15 to 20 megawatts of data centers. How do we make sure that the investors are actually comfortable that really Nairobi is the right place and is their return on this? And, so making sure that at the end of the day, there's a lot of execution that we have to do. But while at it, we must also analyze our business environment 100%. And make sure that, really whatever we are doing is future-proof as much as possible. And I would say that really at my level keeps me awake every other time. But I think it's worth it because that's what the business expects of me.
Dan, what's life without challenges? Yeah, we must surmount them. Dan, again, I want to thank you very, very much. Yes. I want to close it here for this session at least, as we prepare for you to take me on a tour.
You're most welcome.
Guys, thank you very much. This has been an interesting conversation with Dan and his team. We look forward to more conversations like this one. Asanteni sana.